It's one of the single most defining moments in the history of comics. A hero's biggest failure, burned into the hearts of fans for well over a generation. On a bridge with a Green Goblin laughing from above, a life is lost, and a universe is changed forever. In the comics, it was the Amazing Spider-Man issue number 121, the whiplash from Spider-Man's web. The very thing meant to save his love Gwen Stacy is what tragically snapped her neck. Gwen surviving would have probably set them on a more hopeful path. If Peter had saved her in that clock tower, forcing Peter to choose between his life in New York and his love for Gwen, would he have actually followed her to London, like they talked about? Or would the immense responsibility of being Spider-Man keep him tied to his city? On top of that, the threat of the Sinister Six was still bubbling under the surface, the tragic romance from the comics, the bittersweet hope from the movies, or the heroic flipped script of Spider-Gwen. Whether she lives to face new kinds of pain with Peter, or whether she becomes a hero herself, her story is always tied to sacrifice. Her death was the moment that cemented tragedy as the core of Peter's life, but these other realities prove that her life, in any universe, carries its own incredible weight. It leaves us with a final, lingering question: is a hero's journey really defined by who they lose, or by the endless struggle to protect the ones who are left? Let me know what you think down in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more dives into the multiverse. Plotline being set up by the mysterious Gustav Fiers. With Gwen alive, Peter would have faced this villain team with his optimism intact, but he'd also be fighting with the knowledge that his greatest love was also his greatest vulnerability. The what if here isn't about his secret getting out, but about a much more personal conflict between love and duty. He might have dodged the deep, isolating grief that came to define him, but their story was already at a turning point. A universe where the entire story is flipped on its head. Welcome to Earth 65. Here, it's Gwen Stacy, who gets bitten by the radioactive spider.
Oh.
She becomes the superpowered drummer for the band the Mary Janes, but the world knows her as Spider-Woman. In this reality, her best friend Peter Parker desperately wants to be special, just like her. He experiments on himself and tragically becomes this universe's version of the Lizard. Gwen had a scholarship to Oxford University in England, and in the end, Peter dies right there in her arms. She's immediately branded a murderer, hunted by the police including her own father, Captain George Stacy. This isn't a story about Gwen surviving to be Peter's girlfriend. It's about her inheriting the classic Spider-Man burden of great power and great responsibility. It completely redefines her character, giving her all the agency and heroism she was denied in the main timeline. She becomes a hero in her own right, a living legacy, not a tragic memory. And she was determined to go. In the film, The Amazing Spider-Man 2, we all watched in horror as his web line reached her just a split second too late, her fall ending with a sickening thud against the concrete. This one moment piled a new, darker kind of tragedy onto Peter Parker's life, cementing a story built on pain and loss. But what if it just didn't happen? What if in that terrible, split second, Spider-Man did something different? What if he was just a little bit faster? Today we're exploring the timelines where Gwen Stacy lives, and how that one single change completely rewrites everything we thought we knew about Spider-Man. Peter's compassion actually helps Norman Osborn fight off the Goblin persona for a moment. But Osborn's final revenge isn't a battle, it's a letter. He mails proof of Spider-Man's secret identity to J. Jonah Jameson, who doesn't hesitate to publish it. Peter's life is shattered in a way he never saw coming. He's now a fugitive. His Aunt May has a seizure from the shock, and the life he fought to build with Gwen is under constant threat. The story makes a brutal point. Gwen living doesn't erase tragedy from Peter's life. It just changes the shape of it. Even Marvel couldn't stop themselves from asking this question. In a 1980 issue of What If, number 24, to be exact, we get to see a world where Peter makes a different choice. Instead of shooting a web from above, this Spider-Man dives headfirst right after Gwen. He manages to catch her, twisting his own body to absorb the impact as they hit the water, and pulls her to safety. After a terrifying moment, he revives her, and in the raw emotion of it all, Peter Parker rips off his mask and shows her who he really is. He accepts him and he asks her to marry him. For just a second, it's the happy ending every fan dreamed of. But this is a Spider-Man story, and happiness is almost always temporary. Now, in the world of the Amazing Spider-Man 2, their relationship would have been immediately tested by thousands of miles of distance. But then there's another, even more radical what-if. Gwen is forced to fight him. These different paths prove that a single moment really can change everything. But which timeline do you think is the most compelling? Looking at what happens when Gwen Stacy survives tells us something fundamental about the Spider-Man story.